All right, here we are. Welcome to this after town hall. This is a discussion about for the proposal assessors and veteran proposal assessors until we get that naming figured out. And our goal here is to brainstorm, look at some of the sense issues from Fund 8 that we have compiled and have a good upvoted list of here, and think about our approach to solving them for Fund 9. And then we also have two groups here present, and maybe others will join, who are actively working on things that are related to this group. And we're going to just give them some space to talk a little bit about what's going on, both in an informational way and then in an engagement way. Maybe you'll find some additional support or cross-collaborative opportunities. And then hopefully by the end of this, we have some marching orders and some things that we can take further. And then finally, if there's anything that isn't on our list that we think should be, we can also consider that. Okay, sound good? So I'm going to kick it with that over to Zoe. And Zoe, you're working on the renaming initiative fantastically. So I pass to you, and maybe we can give ourselves like up to however long it takes. We'll try to go to like 15-20 minutes. Maybe. I think we have a lot of stuff today, so we'll try to be as succinct as we can, but also as comprehensive as possible. Thanks. Go ahead, Zoe.
Awesome. Thank you. So I've been organizing the renaming initiative because there was always much discussion around the term, especially the term community advisor. Now that got changed, and with the same breath, we just also changed VCA to vPA. Now I had this idea of changing from roles to stages, and gathered some people, invited some. I'll also invite you. I'll send a Telegram link, and if you are watching this without access to the Zoom chat, it's the link is just T for Telegram .me/renaming initiative, without special characters or anything. With that, you can just join the Telegram announcement channel. There's also a discussion group, and the next step I'll be doing is I made an introduction and summary video. I still need to edit that, and as soon as it is ready, I'll send it into this announcement channel. Yeah, and then we proceed. The status as it is now, we just brainstormed. I introduced some folks to the stages instead of roles. Staff, we discussed first problems we see, and yeah, the next things will be to get the detailed process, look at how we could group it into meaningful stages, what roles we would like to keep, and how we could name everything. Oh, awesome. The link is in the chat. Nice. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Any questions or any feedback or something?
Zoe, what are some things that have been coming up in the sessions you're having, and what are some things that you're learning about the process through those community conversations?
Expect the unexpected. Always. Yeah. No, it's absolutely amazing, really. It's very humbling. It's really humbling to just see how many people have ideas, and how you can just, if you give somebody a space, they can, where they can grow, they will grow in, and it's actually amazing. And what I learned about the names is that naming is, yeah, important, and it makes great sense to have clarity and stuff. But yeah, about working with people, it's just it's amazing. Yeah. And about the question in the chat, is this convo in Discord? Unfortunately not. No, sorry. And I can't just take a place where this will be, where this could work just from top of my head. I don't know if you got an idea where such a channel would be nice. Just let me know. Square circle. Catalyst United. Maybe Nadia.
Yeah, I'm sure if there's need for it. Cool. I think that so you're recording the discussions too? Is that right?
Yeah, I did, but I'm actually not sure about, because it's I don't know.
I'm just thinking if someone wanted to watch what you have done so far to get up to speed, but maybe they don't need that. What would you say if someone wanted to join your efforts? How should they do that? Telegram channel first, right? Is there anything they need to come up to speed with, documents or anything?
I'm working on those at the moment, and the video I will share is a summary and not the whole discussions. Yeah, I don't know, I don't like this approach of throwing several hours videos on people. Kind of. Maybe everybody likes that, but you know,
Totally. I think some people do and some don't. I guess it's just, especially for people who are newer, some people are really familiar with this process and some are newer. So that's like really part of the organizing of it, isn't it? It's like, how do you really keep everyone abridged and not like, have us watch marathons of meetings like this one. So yeah, I totally agree. So good on you for doing this. Any questions on this or comments on the changing of the name overall, and or any stuff for Zoe that that should be raised here in reference to this?
I think that we're a worldwide community and we have to be explicit about the naming. We have to use words that relate exactly to what we're doing, and we should strive for that in every area of endeavor here. I'm doing some writing, some articles and things about Catalyst, about Cardano, and I'm finding myself trying to be very careful with my phrasing, turns of phrase, slang, things like this, so that when it goes through the the quickest translation possible is to maybe go through like a Google Translate or something like that, and then edit that on the other end for somebody, is what some people are doing. And then there's other methods that are using other approaches. And these do not benefit well from using turns of phrase or slang, or even just inaccurate names that maybe are there just for legacy's sake, or some sort of, people are used to it, or it's a tradition, or I mean, it's embedded in the culture or something. So we have to be explicit about making sure we don't adhere only to like some sort of tradition or a culture, but also maybe make the culture that we're always looking to simplify things for a worldwide community, and looking at it from that angle is maybe part of the culture that we want to adopt. That's what I thought of when I heard this initially. Essentially, that's what I meant to say.
Hey, thank you. That's a also great part of the goal, that it's clarified everything, and you don't have to second guess. Or I mean, many people when CA was still a thing, many people came in and you could explain it to them and stuff, but you had to always explain it. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Thanks very much for the input.
Could I share one more thing?
Sure.
I actually didn't become a CA right away because I was like, what do I have any business becoming a community advisor? And everybody day one was like, you could be a CA right now, you can do that. And I was like, that makes no sense, because I didn't even look into it enough to know that it did make sense. But it was like, oh, a proposal assessor. Oh, that's attainable. That's something I could achieve. I could read a handbook and learn how to do that. But a community advisor, I was like, I have no business. I started investing into Cardano in 2021. It makes no sense for me to be a community advisor. Like, anyway, so for me, anyway, that's how I felt about it. So it makes it much more attainable to call it this, just to your point right there.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. It's also, if we have this term, free from this bamboozling usage, you can actually implement the role community advisor and really have them as community advisors. That's also part of this whole naming thing. Awesome. Okay.
Hey folks, I guess my question is just really simple. What was the impetus? And also, what's up to Cardano Benjamin and Jonathan? You guys were part of the group last week that the discussion that I was in. Cardano Benjamin, I would say don't shortchange yourself because you might have a world of experience over someone who's coming in, you know, today as day one. So you never know. It's all relative. But yeah, I'm just curious what the impetus was for. I kind of get it, I guess. It seems like for clarification purposes, these are different words: advisor, you know, etc. Community advisor versus proposal assessor. If I got that right. But yeah, I'm just curious if there was like a lot of confusion or you know how it came about to start this initiative.
Yeah, kind of all the time. When I came in, I joined Catalyst in Fund 7, and I kind of right away addressed that. And many people told me, "Hey, this is normal that you get confused about that. Yeah, we understand, and we had to learn it too and stuff." And everybody got into this explaining mode and stuff, and I understood and yeah, started using it myself and stuff. But I'm not the only one that talked about it. Yeah, also Quasar. When I talked to him about it, he said that he's talking about it since several funds and stuff. And then IOG just, you know, in constant communication with Circle, and Circle being in constant conversation with the community, decided to yeah, just change that as a first step. And yeah, just to look what happens, and that this first thingy is kind of out of the way. Yeah, so that wasn't my achievement or something, or the achievement of this initiative. That was just the first step as a result from an ongoing conversation. And
Cool.
now we try to just use the momentum and go a little further and stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you too. Yeah, any other questions, or what do we want to proceed with, Michael?
We can always
Well,
come
if
back. We can always come back to this. Is that you, Tommy? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I really like what Zoe presented in Discord, and I think many people talked about that, and I really like that conversation in Discord because it's so supportive, unlike in some Telegram groups. But the point was that let's focus on what needs to be done. Let's focus on the tasks, and then let's focus on what kind of people are needed to do those tasks and who is okay to do at what stage and blah, blah. So for me, this PA, vPA thing is just like a intermediary step on our way to coming to understanding like what the process is, what the stages in the process are, what the different tasks are that people can take up, what is required from them. Is it a bronze level or silver level or gold level person that is able to do this, that, and that task? And that's going to be so much easier for people to understand, especially when we have these reputation systems and whatnot in place. So as Zoe said, it's just the beginning.
Would this be in any way connected to the project in the discussion that I was in last week, that was I'm forgetting the name of the platform. I'm sorry, Jonathan or Cardano Benjamin. Do you guys remember the name of that platform that we were on? It was about the
Idea scale?
no.
Dework?
Yes,
Dework.
yes. Is this connected to that? Because it seems like this is all about sort of, as I just heard reputation again, and that word came up as well last week. And it seems like there is a common goal or something to sort of have people, have the ability to acknowledge people, folks' contribution, and have some consistent reference.
That
Sorry?
conversation. Oh, could I mention something? Just to kind of share what you were mentioning there. Yeah, last week's conversation was about the use of Dework as a platform to kind of recognize the work of people were doing and sharing some tokens to them for doing work for the Catalyst Circle in specific, talking about Catalyst Swarm Bounty Board. I think it's not the same thing, but yeah, I think we're talking about, from my understanding, just like simplifying and renaming in this sense to maybe from that point, Zoe could maybe respond now, but yeah, we were just talking about something regarding Catalyst Circle last time and the bounties and whatnot.
I wonder if I could go ahead. It seems quite relevant. Some of these questions are quite relevant to what we're talking about.
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay. So I'm going to share, and I'm going to share this first one. So we had a Fund 8 proposal to do a needs assessment. And then a needs assessment as in, what do people need to know how to do if they're going to be community advisors? And that was changed to proposal advisor. So I started on that with a Google Doc, and there's information about that. So what I have to show is there's an overview on our website. I have a curriculum piece that I've got. I'll show you all these momentarily. I've come up with an assessor's template. And also we have a build out in Discord for getting feedback. So it's kind of a full meal deal. And this is a full meal deal because this was our Fund 8 proposal. This is what we asked about doing, and we got some funding to do this. So this is why it's fairly well built out at this point. So the first one is, this is our website, modigdev.com. So all of this information about what I just said is here. So this project was called the Cardano Learning Needs Assessment in Fund 8. The first one we already did, and there's a video about the responses to the Google Doc also in here. I guess I could just go there. I hope that's not gonna. This one. So I made a video talking about our progress in the Google Doc. And a number of people answered, a number of people contribute to that. And there's some lessons learned about what a curriculum for. So I'm taking a curriculum approach. It's called a competencies approach, where you're saying, what do people need to know how to do? And then, and only then, asking what do they need to know? So that's the approach. And the first pass at was in this Google Doc, and you're welcome to take a look at that as a report. One thing that came out of that is, how do you acknowledge people? And I don't have a good answer for that, really. But anyway, we're going with our second part of this, which actually synthesizes some of the input from that first Google Doc. And we've now continuing with the competencies approach. I've come up with this version of what that could look like, as far as what someone learning about being a CA or PA could look like. And this was, I didn't know about Zoe's work at the time. And it was just interesting to see that apparently that idea of doing things by phases sort of coalesced at the same time as we were working on our proposal, and we didn't hear about this till after the proposal was already funded. So I'd already committed to doing all this before I'd heard of the work that Zoe's doing. So this is my proposed take on it. It's not set in stone, and we're asking the community for feedback. So as you can see, it's divided into these 4 phases. And the idea here is that each of these things, people are kind of on their own to learn to learn how to do each of these things, but that it gives a map of everything that you would need to know how to do. And then within each of these, example 1, example 2, example 3, that would be linked specifically to the correct or useful resources to meet that goal. And I have elsewhere on the blog here, there's, for example, with the CA guide, like, so you arrive, you respond to an email, then you create your account, then you submit a receive address, then you look at the dates and you get yourselves organized. So you do all those 4 things in the arrive phase. And then as you're getting more ready to actually propose, you read the CA guide. And I do actually have a timestamped annotated version of that, one of the recent Catalyst School videos. So I linked a whole bunch of topics, but they're not linked here yet. But anyway, because this is still actually tentative and we're still looking for community input on this. So you would read the guide, and then you would read about the challenge, and then you would assess yourself, and then you would select the challenges, and so on and so on. Then you would engage and you would assess. Okay. And as far as the assessment goes, that's really the key part. This is the current stream, and then I've come up with a proposed stream, and I'll just show you for the proposed stream. I would propose this template, and I used to be an English teacher, so I kind of think I know Americans call it a template, so I can do that too, or a rubric. It's kind of a marking guide. So with the criteria or the components of a proposal on this axis, the deliverables, the roadmap, the team, and the budget, seems to me those are the things we want to know how to assess. And then what does assess mean? Well, did they define their terms? Did they explain stuff? Did they give evidence? And then for the 3 criteria for the challenge. And this matrix shows how, different things you would look, for example, on the deliverables, does the proposal specify what's going to be created or implemented? Sort of a yes or no, or it could be a 1 out of 10. So I haven't quite, finalized how this could work, but this would be the idea, that assessors could use something like this also to prepare themselves. And you could also use this to evaluate either your own skill, your own competency in this area, or to evaluate someone else's competency. Okay, any questions or comments so far? Or otherwise, I'll go to the Discord part. I guess I'll go to the Discord part, and then we can have questions. So everyone's seeing Discord there? Okay, so this is our Modig Dev Discord channel, our server. This channel, improving CA processes. We've added this, so that with this, we've actually got built out so that people, for example, in this meeting or in other places where I've committed to going, like Cardano Forum, in Telegram, other places on Discord, inviting people to come here to talk specifically about those things. So in these, for example, in these areas, so that these would be, I think they're called threads. I'm not sure the terminology in Discord, but these threads, talking about this first one, talking about this one, talking about this one. So the idea here is, for example, assess a budget, that you look at what I just showed you, like the big template, the big overview, the curriculum document. Do you agree that's a priority competency to assess a budget? Do you agree on the wording? Do you agree on the resources? Do you agree that's what it means? The whole thing. So all of the conversation on that topic would be here in our server here. Also, I'm very willing to take conversation in the channel. If people are not in Discord, can certainly email me, and we can find another way to. We could put that on our Modig website, actually. So that's what we've got going here, and we're certainly looking for feedback on what I just showed you. And that's why I'm here today, also to connect with everybody here. So I think at that point, I could say questions and comments.
Go ahead, Kenrick.
Sorry, but yeah, great. Yeah, this is very nice, Michael. And I just wanted to follow up with that. So as Fund 8 was getting started, I learned about the work that Michael was doing with his business partner, Paul. And we've had some really good discussions. And in my own CA, improving integrity of CA processes proposal for this round, I had reserved funds for someone in the CA community who was, putting forward a good initiative like this. And so FOTREC is providing some sponsorship for their work as well. And in addition to that, it's still in the planning stages, but I'm in discussions with the SnapRilla team, and I have a meeting with them tomorrow to see if we can kind of finalize the first steps of a plan where, as Michael is saying, he wants to have feedback from the community. And SnapRilla has tools to formalize that feedback, where part of what I had proposed is evaluating the possibility of using the quadratic funding within the CA assessment process. And Michael had a really nice idea that he actually wants like an assessment of his competency tools. And this actually makes it real rather than setting up like a dummy test of using the quadratic voting. We're going to try to set up a possibility of CAs using both the DIDS tools that SnapRilla is setting up and their quadratic voting capability. And I don't think anyone from SnapRilla is here today, but just to kind of give a little background, they had some independent funding, independent of Catalyst. They had their own funding and have already developed a pretty sophisticated platform that is ultimately for facilitating diverse recruiting in high tech. But as part of that, they have built they are in the process of building the equivalent to what's called Gitcoin on the Ethereum side and making that available for the Cardano community. And I'm hoping that Michael and I can be the first test case within the Catalyst community of using those tools to do quadratic voting evaluation of the material he's put together for the community and what the community thinks about it.
Yep, very exciting. And I guess
Questions? And in coming weeks, I'll have more to share. Thanks.
yeah, thanks, Kenrick.
So for each of your initiatives, what are some things that you need immediately? Are the things that the community can support on? Are the things that you need feedback or involvement on? What are some ways that people could engage from here on? Or is it more just staying informed and providing feedback? How should people do that?
What we'll need in particular is people in the community to review this. And I'm hoping to set up like a bounty process where those reviewers will get a small reward for participating in the review. And the bounty process will also be part of the quadratic voting within using the SnapRilla website. So that's the next piece that I'm going to be looking for from the community. And maybe Mike can expand upon that.
Yeah, the idea, I think bounties is going to be necessary, honestly, because there's so much going on in this community and there's so many calls for input, of course. That's
Yeah.
how it is in a DAO, right? The bounties are probably going to be necessary to ensure that we get the right kind of input. And another thing that interestingly came up in the phase 1 of this project, which was just in a Google Doc, and there were only 4 people came in, but still it was very rich input. And one person was really commenting on the use of, sort of open source contributions and how does that, how do people really get, like, if not like rewarded in some way anyway. And I hope that we can at least start to be capturing this in terms of reputational points somehow. And that's been talked about, whether it's not a payment or not per se, but at least some kind of reputation points. And that's all very much, I guess, early days to say exactly how that should work. But we're very interested in that because that kind of input is really the gas for all of these things to be working on. So I think that's about all I have to say, except please, I'll put that in the chat if I haven't already. And that's what we're doing, and we need input, and we're going to be, I'm going to be going out with this information to a bunch of different sources 2 more times after this. So I think that's about all I have to say for now. Thanks very much.
Roki, am I saying that right? Go ahead.
Sure, why not? Call me a crazy, but like, and I'm not trying to sort of shoehorn last week's discussion into this, but I'm just listening, and it seems like there is there's some crossover in what that discussion was and what we're talking about right now. The same words are being used, reputation, etc. And it seems like there is in outreach, as Felix was having last week, he was looking for input. I'm wondering, Michael, have you touched base with Felix on his project and what he's got going on? Because it seems like that should probably happen, maybe. You guys are asking a lot of the same stuff, and it seems like there should be some, synergy going on between you guys. It's just obvious, so that's why I want to say that. And if I'm very wrong, I apologize, but just want to put that out there.
Yeah, indeed, there's all kinds of possible synergies, and it's great that Kenrick's group and our group are getting one of those synergies going. That's great. I haven't heard of Felix's. I know also Len. Len, I forget his last name, also has a relevant project. So I haven't, and maybe Nadia can help me connect those dots there. Thanks
right.
For that.
Felix's was about creating, a token that is not necessarily monetary. It's just for reputation. And he was trying to, get some input as to how it could be utilized, I guess, most readily. And also looking for any feedback. And if, he was kind of just feeling out, I guess, kind of just cold response to see what we had to say about it. And I felt like it was pretty good discussion. And yeah, and he presented the platform, which is escaping my name, my mind right now again. But it just, it seems like I feel compelled to tell you that maybe you should definitely touch base with Felix, because I think that there's something that you guys.
Oh, that sounds great. No, that sounds very relevant.
Yeah,
Thanks for that,
definitely.
Okay. What are you thinking, Michael, about, and then Ellen, I'll come right to you, about the beginnings of the application for this coming fund? Are you feeling like, because we don't have long until we do that onboarding, I think this is a Fund 10 thing for the entirety of it, or are you going to try to get something in place for Fund 9?
I don't know. I don't know.
Feeling?
Maybe you have to ask the new circle rep about that. I hate to see the old circle rep leaving. That's too bad. But
well, that's not a circle decision. That's a community adoption thing and a preparedness and a process thing. So
okay, yeah, I don't know the process. Yeah, I don't know the process. One thing, I noticed clearly in Fund 9 was that there's almost no funding for educational stuff in Fund 9, unlike Fund 8, there was all kinds of funding, right? So I'm not exactly sure where things are going to go in the immediate future. And actually, maybe I'm not sure. I think that will emerge and see how far we get this summer too, right? Like Kenrick, maybe you could even chime in on that.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is I experienced something similar with last year's work that Votrek did. And so I've tended to now propose longer projects and not try to do it all in a hurry just because you don't know exactly cycle to cycle what funding you're going to have available for projects.
I guess just to say, Nadia, I don't really know, and we're certainly open to suggestions about a good way to do it. It seems to me that, you know, like a lot of the Fund 8 conversation, let's face it, was about people gaming the system. That was a large part of the conversation in Telegram. As the voting started and around that whole phase. And it seems to us that having a competency-based thing and just shining light on that it's one way to shine light on that whole process, even though the incentives are really much more important than incompetence, but it's still one way to shine light on the whole process. So we're open to suggestions about how we could move the whole thing forward past Fund 8. And in Fund 9, actually, we're thinking of proposing for Fund 9 along the lines of a DAO, but that's kind of a different topic as well. So I don't know, but we're open.
It seems it might lend itself in very specific phases, like this phase works for this phase with a portion of it works for this fund. We can try this out. We can see how it adopts. We can, you know, then sort of establish what works and what doesn't. And the more complex to build stuff, the more integrated stuff might be longer, but maybe you test the competencies early and just get feedback on it. So just throwing that as an idea, because that learning might really help people in this fund, or it may be preemptive. So it's one of those things where you don't want to put something out before it's ready because you wouldn't get the right kind of feedback that you're looking for. But yeah.
And it seems like if we can get, especially if we can get some bounties, then we get some, you know, dedicated participation in getting the feedback, then they're actually looking at really quite robust data to build decisions on. You know, if there's X number of people saying they agree with this or they agree to some extent or whatever, I don't know the process, but it seems to me you could go back to higher up in the food chain and say, here's actual data about what we could be doing as far as competencies go. I see Ellen has.
The thing I'd say is that the development fund this round is quite large. It's 7 million. So if you have an angle to support the PA community that involves development of tools for the community, you might consider that challenge.
What is that part of the fund?
The DApps products and integration.
Yes. Okay.
It's 7,850,000 and
825.
825. Yeah.
Okay, yes, we're definitely wanting to do something now. I see Ellen has a question there, and Ellen was one of the contributors in the Google Docs. So hi, Ellen. Go ahead.
You muted, Ellen, if you're talking. I'll send you this ask to unmute, see if that helps. We can't hear you. There we go. Nope.
Yeah.
You're trying to unmute. Okay. We can come back to you. Just chime in when you're unmuted here. I'm not sure. Sometimes it's, and open the camera. Cool. Okay, we'll give you a second or two here because we got time. All right. And we'll come right back to you. Is there any other comments on this or suggestions for this team? For these teams?
I definitely want to throw out I like the aspect of competency, because I'm kind of big on education. I mean, that's what I'm spending a lot of my time with in general, and learning about blockchain, DeFi, and I mean, the most complicated thing I'm learning about right now is how to navigate the Cardano community. So, you know, that's why I'm coming to these meetings and trying to, you know, soak up as much as I can. I'm just a big sponge right now. So I would definitely, if I had a wand, I would keep that there, and maybe keep it as a point of emphasis, because, you know, like in a broader sense, you know, this is blockchain technology, etc. I think it would be an unfortunate sort of missed opportunity to not get everybody on a certain level to start with, so that they don't feel like overwhelmed, or that maybe this is not for me, I'm going to go back to traditional finance stuff or whatever, even though this has nothing to do with finance per se. I like the idea of getting people familiar and giving them some sort of direction. That's why I really liked your the sort of visual grid that you had, setting up people, giving them a map to follow, or some sort of direction, because otherwise it's just jumping into the Amazon and saying, I'm going to figure it out. And people are doing well, I could see, but I mean, I'm struggling a bit, you know, but I appreciate you guys and people that are doing things like this. I'm trying to get to you guys' level as far as contributions. So again, I couldn't you know, support that more, the educating and you know, and assessing people's competency and what they have to contribute. Not to go on too long, but you know, an idea that I have of my own that's kind of, you know, in the same ballpark is, you know, I like the idea of, like, you know, not per se a Myers-Briggs assessment, but like when you come into the Cardano community, and, you know, in a sense that you can take a sort of personality assessment or skills or interest assessment and say, you know, this is where I stand. This is my map of my interests and my skills. And you kind of plug it into something, or some sort of module, or some sort of website, or some sort of reference point, and say, okay, if I like this kind of thing, this is the kind of person I should be talking to, right? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And actually, we are doing that. In fact, earlier this morning, I did a session with a colleague of mine through Modig Dev of actually getting people up and running with a wallet and an exchange, you know, that very first thing. And it's
Right.
really exactly the same idea, where you've got a map of the steps, like you have to, you know, deal with your financial institution, then you have to have a mechanism to get the fiat, and then you have, you know, a wallet and exchange, and then you can do something with it. So it's also divided into steps. And then, but that's a map, because it's going to vary for individuals. But also with our study buddy, the larger model, the study buddy thing is we set you up with partners, like 2 partners, so that you 3 people who are all working at that, more or less at that level, you know, you can all go forward and compare notes about what you're learning about wallets or exchanges, or wherever you are. It could be, you know, staking or investing or whatever. So this kind of approach, we're going to be building sort of like they're super pared down courses. It's more like a map and some companions.
Sure, why not? Why not? Yeah, definitely call it that, you know?
Yeah, so please check out our website and go in there. And actually, there is the form. There's an intake form on there, and you can register, and then we'll set you up with some people who are also at the same level, wherever your level is. So this morning, one person, for example, wants to accept payments on his website to sell his book. So that's a learning goal for that person. The other person wants to get into trading with bots. So those 2 guys can be set up in, you know, 2 different groups. Once they've given us their interests, then we can set them up with other people who have the same interests. And then there's actually an agreement that you're going to check in altogether 3 times with those same people and compare notes. And we're looking at eventually that'd be actually a smart learning contract. It would actually be like a trustless contract, where you to really encourage people to follow through on their learning intention. And we see this as being a way to really transform a lot of education, a lot of different levels, instead of the whole standardized testing stuff that doesn't serve us very well.
What's that? Standardized testing? That sounds nasty.
Like the whole multiple choice question thing.
Sorry, that was my humor. Sorry, I'm being silly.
Pardon?
I was just being silly. My bad.
Okay. No.
Should we come back to Ellen here since she's back? Ellen, let's see if we can get it to work this time. We can see you. Can anyone hear her? I
We
can't.
see you, but we don't see you. And you're unmuted, but your own microphone must not be working. Well,
No. Michael's saying maybe choose a different input under your mute button there. If you click on the arrow that points up, maybe choose a different mic if you have one available. Oh yeah, next to mute. Thank you, Michael. There's a little arrow at the 3 buttons there. This happened to me the other week. I had a new headset and I could not figure it out. It was like it's always something obvious to turn it back off and turn it back on thing. Kenrick saying under Zoom preferences, there's an audio feature where you can test your mic or select your microphone.
Or if you've used your mic with another app, you got to close that up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I used to have that happen between Google Meets and Zoom. Yeah.
Or you can put it in the chat, Ellen, too. We can take it from the chat. So I want to give just the group the sentiment that following this, if there's anything else on this one, I'm thinking we'll go back. We lost her again. Maybe we'll pull up the prioritized problems board here and go to that next. Does that feel okay for everyone? Any other things we want to add for this conversation?
No, thanks everybody for your time, and join us if you're interested.
Okay, great. Okay, so sorry, I have a very loud person mowing the lawn outside my window and I can't do anything about it more. Everything's shut, so hopefully it doesn't come over too strong. So I will share my screen here and I'll just give this, I think everyone in this group is pretty familiar. We use Dework, this fund, we sensed a bunch of problems or issues or suggestions or feedback from the community over Fund 8 related to the vPA process. And then we listed these all in Dework so that there was a place where people could look at them and review them. And then
You're not sharing right now, Nadia. Were you intending
No,
to share?
I'm just explaining
Okay.
before I put it up. Once I put it up, it's like,
Oh.
you know, glitter and aluminum foil. So it's madness. Thank you, Michael. So there's a list of issues, large and small. And then we asked the PA community and the broader community over this time to come in and upvote the things that they felt were most important. So that's what I'm going to pull up here. These are what I would call like the prioritized community suggestions. And this is part of a broader goal of creating a simple workflow whereby the community could raise its own suggestions. The rest of the community could look at them. People could find collaborative interest together. So other people who would be able to work on certain issues together. Those could end up as proposals. They could end up as, hey, we can do this right now. Let's try to fix it. And that then they could work onto working group boards, these community suggestions. Once people wanted to adopt them, they could become onto the working group boards. There's one for PAs and there's one for vPAs, and that they would then become workflow problems that we would work to solve and then archive. So that was the purpose of this process. A lot of work went into building this. I want to just give Scott a shout out for pretty much the whole Dework build and a lot of work on the server for doing that this fund. And to Jeremy and Tommy and everyone for giving a lot of feedback. There's been a lot of good work here done on this to bring it to this point. So we're at the point of using the tools and allowing them to be adopted and moved forward based on what's there. So the tools are there now, and we're going to start really using them for this fund, and we'll probably find stuff we need to change, but hopefully not too much stuff that it slows us down. So I'm about to show you this Dework board. So this Dework board is the community suggestions board. And this community suggestions board is a compilation of all of these issues raised in channels and across the time here. So you'll see that the top ones here are the most upvoted. So 19 people voted for this. 17 people voted for this, 16 for this, and so on. I'll just scroll it for us quickly to see the scope. There's quite a lot of stuff, but some of these ones down here were less supported. So what should become of unused undeliverable project funds may be an important thing within Catalyst, but perhaps not as much of a priority for the PAs to think about together, where some of the top ones are more related to us overall. There's some stuff here that doesn't have much to do with us that was just raised. So yeah, so that's the scope. So what I'm thinking about is having this initial discussion with everyone to say what's here that are the top issues. How can we prepare ourselves to make sure that these are resolved so that they don't show up and rear their heads here in Fund 9? And is there anyone who is interested in either working on them or championing them? What will happen for these from here is when we decide, or maybe we decide as a group, that the reality is that if something ends up in the top 5 or 10 community suggestions, it automatically becomes a suggestion for the board. And I'll show you the board itself here as well, just to help give that visual. So the community suggestions is in shared ideas. This is what's called a board here. We're calling a board. And then we have these working groups. So I would go into the proposal assessor working group just to show you that once something is chosen and selected, it becomes a live, active problem that's being solved, and someone has picked it up. So we have this. Actually, I don't know why this is assigned to you, Jeremy, but this was Allison's. SIA onboarding course development. So she has this on here with subtasks attached to it, and maybe you're both working on it together. I didn't mean to, I just remember that she started it. So we have this goal here of creating content for onboarding and as a response to one of these issues. And there's lots of other things. The same thing is true of the veteran proposal advisors. There's not as much on here. There's more conversation. So these boards are ready to receive. And when we add to these boards, we just need someone or a couple of people to have sort of an eye on them and say, this is something I think it's important to fix. And then within these, rather than having documents that live sort of somewhere and we have to look for them in order to help people in the future understand, we're going to have actually a space here where we can actually document and then archive in the GitHub for the future. So that is that. I know it might be new for some of you to look at, but ultimately what we want is to organize our work together and chronicle what we've done. That's the purpose, and to be able to respond to issues that we're finding. That's why we have this here. So I'm going to come back to the shared ideas board. Here's the community suggestions, and all of this lives in the Discord server. So these create threads in a Discord server that can be talked about. There's a thread for each of these for discussion. And it also syncs to GitHub so that there's a GitHub log related to these in the future. So I'm just going to pause there, having run through that. I see you have your hand up, Kenrick, to just take.
Yeah, and I have lots of questions. So
Go ahead.
I'm new to Dework. It does look really interesting, and so I'm just trying to understand the environment a little bit more. This is a Dework view, is that correct? But it's also, as I understand it, like the layout looks a lot like Discord. And is it like already integrated? Is what you're seeing sort of integrated with Discord too? And then my second question is, when you go to the project boards, those project boards, the layout looks a lot like GitHub's. Is that already integrated with GitHub's? Is that how it's kind of like linking these 3 different tools together?
Yeah. So I will also let Scott answer any of the, he's the builder of everything. So I'll let him really speak to specific
How does
questions.
it all work? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, so once we created these threads, each of these issues here, so you can see it when you click on it. These are just some of the things that similarity of proposals, for example, create similarity of assessment issues. So clear guidance is needed. That's something that happened a lot. We had a lot of proposals that were either copy pasted or similar. So when people went to assess them, the assessment would be naturally reasonably similar. It would be very time consuming to write, just change wording around. So that was a big question and something that affected people because some of the proposals were multiple. So hopefully we address some of that in the proposal part, but here, and as the recipients of what comes down the assessment river, we have to prepare and address this so that CAs know, or PAs know, it's going to take a while, so that PAs know how to respond. So some of these requests were like clarity on whether the assessments could avoid filtering, the similarity assessment filtering. People didn't want their assessments filtered out because they were similar, because the proposals were similar. Clarity of ethics on discussing red flags, and then max parameters for proposals. So some of that was addressed lightly with the additional proposal questions as to feasibility and scope of proposals in the proposing process. So hopefully there'll be more clarity from that, but also we need to address this here. So I point that out just to give people a view of the actual problem as it's been raised. So when this was created, also a Discord channel was created for it within the Discord server, and then people can talk about it. Conversations happen around it, and those things are linked to each other. When this is created, it also creates a GitHub that will be the archiving piece. So Dework here is serving the purpose of automating and creating hooks between those places, and also creating the opportunity for us to be able to work together and communicate about it as it progresses. Is that helpful? I know there's a lot to look at here, and my ultimate purpose is that we get to sort of reviewing this and finding next steps, but I don't want to leave people in the confusion space about the tools themselves.
I had one follow-up question too.
Please.
Do you know if Deworks has any time management tools? Because when I was looking at it, I use a different tool for my own work. And one of the things I like about it is that it has a clock that kind of helps me keep track of how much time I've spent on different tasks. Do you know if Deworks has anything like that as an option?
Yeah,
It doesn't seem to be part of the package, but maybe there's a...
It does have task points here where you estimate the time required for it, which you can change, and you could also log, and you can do that for each of the subtasks as well. So let's say you're working with a group, like we're using this for the GPS as well. And within there, we, as a team, when we work together on things and think about it, you can estimate the amount of time that someone's going to spend on it, and you can also update that afterwards. It's not going to like sit at your computer and count your 22 minutes, but it will give you that'd be nice, right?
Yeah, okay.
Ping you when you should stop, you know what I mean?
If it can reach an email service, that might be a start. Because then you can, if you have Outlook, which has a calendar embedded in it, you can then say, okay, I can just kind of link this to my calendar on Outlook, if it doesn't already have this sort of feature.
I don't know. I can't speak to that at that level.
No, I got the answer. Scott answered. Sorry.
Okay, great.
It does not have email integration. Discord is used for the communication on it. There will be, if you have a Discord account, because you can log into Dework with either Discord or GitHub. We have it set up to where it's Discord. If you have a task that is coming due, or you assigned a task, it will ping you in the thread that was created for the Dework issue.
It'll ping
If
in
you are,
Discord.
if you are assigned to it,
Yeah, it'll ping you in Discord.
yes, it will.
Yes, in Discord, I know Discord sends me emails, so maybe I mean that's still some some sort of connection there.
So I thought maybe I would open discussion here among this group, having looked at these, and certainly we'll need more discussion because there's lots of people involved who are not here. But as an initial discussion, one of the things that I can definitely put forth is that we need to update the CA guide, PA guide, and the guide needs to have the insights also, I think, from to make sure that we address what was newly put in the proposal guide. We need the input of that community also in thinking about the assessment piece, so there is continuity and understanding across the process, and so that we're updated for this fund based on things we learned last fund. So some of these things actually will feed into that, but that makes some of them urgent, meaning like we need to update the guide based on the fact that similar proposals are creating the similarity issues. So what should a CA do if they, what should a PA do if they come across that circumstance? We maybe could save ourselves and them a lot of time and help them to prepare if we have that kind of outlined as far as expectations. I don't know how far we'll get on the reputation model, although there's a lot of influence there, so, or interest there. So then there's a lot for the VCA process, and then there's a lot for some of the suggestions regarding how to make it more aligned between the proposing and the assessing process. So I want to open it to the group to hear what, if there's interest in anyone wanting to take a little bit of a lead on these, we can help them get set up, and we can start to talk about more broadly how we're going to do it together. How should we do it? How should we approach it? And what things might not be on here that should be. We'll try to take into account the chronology of what's going to happen with the fund. Ellen, see if we can do it this time. We're going to do it.
Can you hear? Yes. Yeah,
Great.
I'm sorry. It was a problem with my computer and configurations and etc. So so I don't know if I'm going to be a bit general on this. The comment I'd like to say first is I'd like to thank you, Nadia and Michael and Scott and the people that I talked in the last days. And I'm sorry I could not follow up much because the amount of information is always overwhelming and competing with a lot of other stuff. One thing that it's not totally clear to me from my experience, last I was talking to Captain Dan about, for example, I think you, Nadia, you already said you were going to have a guidelines with more specific examples, because one thing that could not happen and might happen in the last fund is like VCAs expecting some specific approach that's not written on the guidelines. So, for example, it was written in the guidelines, things like, you need to give qualitative response, not that shows you read the project, and not say just it's great, it's good, I love it, or things like that. That it was clear, but it was not clear some other specific issues. So this is another things that, from the question I put before, is like, if it's not clear in the guidelines, so the proposer assessors cannot ask, what is not, explained well in all the guides. Another thing is I shared with you this inspirational video from a social epidemiologist, because what I loved about this video, I don't know if you had a chance to see, I highly recommend, because we are talking about inequality and all the problems inequality generate, and it's not about wealth, because the most wealthy countries have, with high inequality, have a lot of big problems related to well-being, health, mental issue, and etc. So what I think, what we want here, at least what I will advocate always for, is like to use the technologies for, you know, to really construct a better world. So we need to have some value. So one thing that this guy says is like, one of the devices used in this system is like people feel currently undervaluated, and usually people feeling recurrently undervaluated are the people target for some reasons, or the people, you know, because if someone is unemployed or is not with the opportunities, there is some issue around. It may be you know, some different issues that the person is being undervaluated. So this is a recurrent thing. So I think we should, in our communication, make sure when we are talking about things, because I mean, it's like PAs are not experts either, and you know, all the proposals and everything. PAs have experience in the Catalyst system, and that's it. You know, so this is important, but it's like it's not to put. And the fact that PAs, VCAs did not need to have accountability, like to show all these have to be filtered out because of these and that. This also makes like a kind of abuse of power. And so I think what I would like to bring is discussion with my project that I will present in some time. It's how we make sure the values that is necessary are embedded in our projects and the way we are conducting things, because otherwise, if we replicate like a type of power dynamics where, you know, someone has power, does not need to have accountability, and just say, oh, you put people against the wall individually, you did this wrong, and you don't see what comes up as a phenomenon and with what happened. And of course, if some people are you know, vibrating to this greed of making money, making more and more and more and more as I could, and not taking care about the others, then it's also another, you know, addiction that makes people to reinforce this power dynamics and to devaluate some people for them to kind of shut up and don't say anything, and etc. So I'm just pointing out those things because I'd like to explain you know, my position when I was criticizing things, and not escaping from acknowledging that, you know, in one proposal or another, I might, you know, be too concise or something. It's something that I need to go back and analyze, you know, point by point with the guidelines and etc. to see what happened. So I hope this will improve, you know, with the PAs giving explanations. And I don't know how far you went in this proposal, like if there is going to have a limit of proposals, like people can assess and things like that. So yeah, I hope what I said could be understood a little bit, and thank you very much.
Any comments on Ellen's comments there? Make some space for a response.
I believe she was talking. I believe Ellen was, and Ellen can correct me if I'm wrong, but speaking around sort of the notion of this human behavior where when you have an incentive for people to, I guess, work through proposals, they may, you know, get so focused on getting some proposals, you know, the throughput, where they're not you may sort of sideline, one or two other proposals or however many, because you're incentivized to just get through as many as you like. Whereas she mentioned maybe perhaps having it, implementing a limit for PAs. And I think that's sort of what I gathered, at least that much, which I think is all, everything I heard that I understood was definitely great ideas for it. I understand the concern. I would definitely, look further into it if others felt like it was worth it.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I've been working on something recently, just like an article that I'm working on with some of the information that came out in some different spreadsheets, trying to like focus the reader's attention on like how do we create more, how do we create this sort of cultural mindset that we're all really aiming for excellent assessments all the time. That's the only assessment worth writing, right? Like that we're only, because as we do that, some of those are going to get filtered out to only good and even thrown out, because there's just going to be, if we raise the bar to a certain level, then you have like a lot of, what you have is you have much more useful information for voters. That's what it comes down to, right? It's like, that's the only reason that we're here. We're doing this for the voters. We're trying to help the voters. Also, I guess, secondly, we're trying to help the proposers to be able to read the assessments and then reevaluate next time if they have to rewrite. And even in the future, in posterity, like we look back and we can go, oh, look at these assessments. This is how you write a good proposal. And then even the assessments are helping to refine it even further. So that now I'm writing my own proposal. I can use this as sort of a template, not a template, but just a basis to learn from. So in any case, yeah, I'm trying to speak to that in this article. And I guess I haven't heard anybody talking about this topic very much. Just like, how do we help the community focus on excellent assessments? And monetarily speaking, it looks like people that, I mean, there's people that were writing very few assessments, but all excellent. And then other people throwing stuff at the wall. I mean, you're seeing like 200 assessments and like maybe 3 of them went through and were even good. And they got paid very little. And it's like, how much time did they spend versus the person that spent time writing excellent and good proposals that only wrote maybe 5 or 10 or 3 or whatever and got paid a lot actually. And anyway, I'm trying to make these correlations. It's not always clear in the data, like how many of them got, how many of them made an assessment that there was only one assessment. So they kind of got allotted the whole pool of money. I think that's how it works. I'm not quite sure. And I don't even know where to go to necessarily for these, to get these questions answered. And maybe that's how somebody could reply to what I'm saying is, where do I go to ask these questions? And then also in terms of looking at that data, I'm trying to understand, just for the benefit of this article so that I can learn from this, is how do I determine which ones of these ended up in a lottery system? Because some of the people that received quite a bit, maybe they won a lot of the lottery or something like that, because a lot of the assessments or proposals were assessed far more than 5 times, so then that means there was a lottery implemented, and I don't know where the details of that are. It's a lot of data to go through and everything, but I'm trying to maybe use the current assessment or the current incentives to help the reader to realize, like, oh, actually writing excellent and good proposals is, and as primarily excellent proposals, is really worth shooting for. I don't know. So where would I go to maybe ask somebody more refined information on that topic, or is that even available now?
I could be wrong, and I'm very new still, but I know that, sort of signing up, the whole signing into and signing up for the idea scale. I do recall, I mean, there is a guide for community or proposal assessment. It was community advisors. So I suppose that document would be updated. You know what? Let me actually look for that. I have it bookmarked, so I can just kind of put that in the chat for you, Benjamin.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for an individual to speak to, because this information isn't documented that I understand yet. Unless you actually, unless you're saying that it is documented in there, I just didn't see it. I've read that
Yeah,
handbook
there's
several
definitely,
times, so I don't think that it's in there.
oh, I'm sorry.
Like, I need the breakdown of like, okay, this proposal in Fund 8 received this many assessments, and if it was 11 assessments, then that means there was definitely a lottery system put in place. Who won the lottery? I'm trying to understand the details of all of those figures, because and so that I can kind of break it down and help learn or help talk about it in this article. But I don't have those details, and I don't even know if they exist.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't know the access to the results as far, as how that went. I'm sorry.
Daniel, is that information you know where I could get at all, or
is it specifically with the breakdown of really having how many active, or what was actually put forward to the voting app, that how many individual reviews or assessments were made and put into the consideration, into the mix? Is that the thing?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I'm looking for information. There was about, like, if an assessment won 10 or had, sorry, if a proposal received 10 assessments, let's just say, those 10 assessed, and they were all good and excellent, then there must have been a lottery system taken, the lottery would have had to happen. So what is the breakdown? Who won the lottery and whatever? So that when I'm reading the facts and figures of who received what compensation, I'm understanding like, oh, they got this much more because they won a lottery versus, oh, they got this much over here because they were one of 4 assessments or something. I don't know, is there any of that information? Is that available publicly, or?
I don't think that's available publicly in a very uniform and easy way to access. I think we tried to come forward this time around with a very transparent document, which was a little bit too transparent for this round. And we had to actually pull it back because of the issue of anonymity in some of these cases. And we're going to be addressing it coming forward with dual submission of different addresses for PAs and VPAs, so that we can actually come back in the next round and really do very detailed analysis of that. And I would imagine we can use the one which was published and then pulled back as a basis, and perhaps we can include also like another document which could be put together with like how many active reviews were on any given proposal and which one would have triggered what kind of like lottery. But I don't think we're there yet in terms of like that level of detail just yet, but it may be something we can strive for the next one. Granted, we fixed that anonymity issue that happened this time around because of that transparency drive for, but then we've, not everything was as it should be. So it's something to definitely look at it, but it's a mountain of data. And I think all of that is up and available in a sense that what actually feeds the voting app itself, that spreadsheet is available. It really would take only for somebody to come in and maybe massage that spreadsheet into something which we try to do with reports, which is like very simple and readable format, and a bit of a visual cues of like what and how different payouts were distributed and what the workload of those individual CAs or PAs has been. But for the proposals only, and then maybe try to start looking for patterns, right? Because I think that could be really interesting to see.
Yeah, so if I wanted to just, for instance, find out where, how I was paid personally, like I can look at my assessments on there and everything I've on that document, and I could see like, oh, I rated this one as, or I mean, I got an excellent rating on this assessment. That's great. And then I got paid a certain amount, but that breakdown isn't there. And I'm wondering if that's that information I could see anywhere. You're saying no, right? Not yet currently, right? That's going to be a refinement later.
You can probably dig it out and come to some kind of conclusion if you were to go individually on the proposal that you did, but not in an easy and transparent way that I think we want to get to it. But it just isn't there. The data is there, but I don't think anyone has actually massaged it in that direction just yet.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm sorry for taking so much time with the question.
No worries.
If anybody else is interested in talking about this off of this conversation, please let me know. I would love to converse with somebody about it.
Benjamin, I know like in one of the Project Catalyst YouTubes, it's for onboarding, new CAs and people coming in. In one of the YouTubes I watched some time ago, I think I don't remember I don't remember the gentleman who owned the dog, but I think Felix was one of the people in the video. In any case, they did have somewhat what you're speaking to, where they on a sort of like it looked kind of like a spreadsheet, but it was definitely it wasn't like Excel, but they were speaking somewhat to how things are rewarded. Although I don't think that information was put into some sort of formal document for consumption, like on idea scale or anything. I think that was just in that video. That's probably not helpful for you, but
if you run across it, feel free to send it to me. I'm on Twitter at Cardano Benjamin.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just talking and you were not hearing me. I was saying this is the document Danny's just linked. There's a lot there as far as the rewards overview that came out last fund. Okay, so a little bit back here. I guess the question for me is, having really sort of observed this and put it up and watched the votes happen and been in these conversations for a while, is should it become that that we look as a community at CA ideas here, at PA ideas here, and think about, okay, there's 3 or 4 of them and we need to do them and these are the most urgent. Should we, thank you, Michael, PA. Should it be PAs and vPAs? And we have like kind of a team around each that certain people work on. The original thinking was that those who raise these issues might be interested in spearheading them a little bit, or at least being involved in the solution. Like Ellen, to your point, you maybe you're not the general, but perhaps you'd like to really have influence on it based on what your experience is, so that your perspective is represented and other perspectives are represented in the solving. So I put this question to the group to say, how do we want to self-organize around these? And once we do that, how should we meet and talk about it? Should we do it asynchronously? What we've historically done is we find a problem, we sort of know it needs to happen, certain amount of people get together on it. Maybe we, like, for example, we created a doc, we have a thread in Discord, we talk about it. We invite people to that thread. We also have it going on in Telegram. And then here, maybe we could do it that same way, and we end up updating this here with subtasks, and we're a little bit more organized. So I'm throwing these ideas out to say, how do we, everyone came to this session here, you're still here, so this is important to you. What are some of the ways that you can see that we might approach this and respond to the amount of support that was behind certain of these issues being fixed? We don't have data massage therapist credentialing in here. But
I have a question. Do you want to stop the share there, Nadia?
Sure.
Yeah. I can't really answer the question. I just really noticed that I don't have enough understanding about the whole process. That's one thing, like you come in and then CA, you're sort of on a certain branch of the tree, and it's very hard to understand the other branches and the limbs and the trunk of the tree. It's a bit of a black box. I'm not very familiar with the VCAs, and less familiar with the circle, and then even less familiar with how the circle relates to Cardano as an entity, and then how that relates to IOHK. And it seems to me that it's decentralized at this level, but it's not decentralized all the way to the top, right? All the way to the IOHK shareholders. So, and somewhere some decisions are getting made somewhere. So it seems like somebody has a certain amount of power that isn't really on the field. So I don't understand the situation, honestly.
I feel like I'm somewhat in the same thinking as Michael. And just, just a little bit of full disclosure. My background is in, grant administration. So I've been reading proposals for a living for a while. And so, I'm used to a little bit of, I understand it's decentralized and the nature of this and everything. But I think in trying to, we want to get you answers, Nadia, and help, but myself, I'm still trying to sort of even learn, how to walk. And like how to navigate these. There's like, now we're introduced to like 3 different platforms at once, and that they're proprietary. One of them is, I think, proprietary, brand new. So I think it's a bit overwhelming, because we can probably give you some answers, maybe not great insight, but at least give you answers. But I feel like to truly contribute on the ground, in a real way, we have to figure out how to even use these tools. As you mentioned tools earlier. I'm still learning how to use the tools in a sense, although I am obviously willing to help at the core of the matter. So I think maybe that's probably an impediment to furthering some things here.
Very helpful, thank you. Vlad, I'll go to you and then I'll maybe respond to all of it at once where it makes sense for me to respond to it.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah, I was thinking maybe when we have a list on Dework of these prioritized issues, well, we do have a budget for CA rewards, maybe a small percentage of that, like 1, 2, 3, I don't know, 5% of that could be allocated to resolve the top 3 issues. Or we have Catalyst as a funding mechanism. So maybe, let's say, the top 2 issues for proposers, or top 2 issues or top 3 issues for CAs could automatically be included as a proposal that would invite, as a project that would invite proposers to try to resolve them. So maybe there are some other ways of using existing allocations or existing funding mechanisms to address the top ranked proposal issues that we see in Dework. So I think it will also then result in more CAs participating in the Dework voting, because these issues will be resolved, will attract the possibility of being financed to find a solution. That's it.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And like Jeremy is saying in the chat, that there is a treasury money already from the proposal made in the previous fund. But that part that Jeremy is saying, that streamline some of the governance of that, I think that's a really good idea if we force whoever wants to get some of that treasury money or this common rapid funding money, that they should go through the process of submitting it to the board and then getting the votes from the people. And if they make it to the top 3, then they can get the money or something like that. But to get to that point, we need to publicize this more, because people don't know it exists. So it has to be in a recurring cadence that we show that, okay, these are the top 3 currently, these are bubbling under, go vote, then we're going to choose, we're going to work on one, then these are the results from the previous one. It has to be like a train that goes on, and you keep documenting and telling about what's happening in the train.
I like that a lot. So what are you thinking about how that would happen? It would come into the channels on a weekly basis. These are new ones. Are there times to add, and then the decisions is made and then new ones start? Do things live there long term if they don't get adopted? What are some thoughts on that?
Well, currently our only channel seems to be town hall and after town halls. People don't even come to those weekly meetings that you've been organizing. So 5 minutes in the town hall, I guess.
Some people come to them. Okay.
It's always the same 5 people who come to them.
So, I guess my question is about then, how do you keep it from being Groundhog Day of saying the same thing over again functionally for the problems that are listed there, for the things that end up on the community suggestions board, for us to do? What criteria is it? Is it the top 3? If it's the top 3, it gets incentivized. Someone gets incentivized to go through the process, which could also be its own framework of adding it to the board and spearheading its resolution. How often do we choose that? Is it by fund? Is it monthly? Like how often does that need to happen? What is the scope of the problem that gets there? I guess these are like the framework questions. Go ahead, Zoe.
Yeah, just to add to this, I'd really appreciate some small invitations with small summaries and stuff, maybe in the Catalyst United Discord, because for you, it may be that you're saying the same all the time, but if you always have a different audience, for them is really the first time. And I mean, today it was awesome to really get to really see the whole thing guided through and stuff. That was very helpful, and I kind of missed that in the server, because I feel like when I go into the server, I feel overwhelmed and I can't really orient myself, and I then feel like, okay, when I want to contribute, I first have to read, I don't know, many letters, and I think that would be very greatly appreciated if you invite every now and then and really, yeah, make it a bit clear what one can do and stuff, just so just that the first overwhelmment just vanishes and stuff.
Totally. I don't think that I'm still not done being overwhelmed from coming to Catalyst in the first place. So it's like a constant thing. I really appreciate this feedback. And you're right. It is sort of how it used to be before we put something like this together. Was we'd come in rooms where we talk like this, and we'd sort of try to figure out how to get things together, and we would have conversations some places and things would get done. But it also was like, then like Rocky, you're saying, having come here, and when you're new, orienting yourself midstream while so much is in motion without the historical information and the wisdom there, and trying to come up to speed is so complicated, it's overwhelming.
Yes.
And orienting what those things are that can be very specific in the greater context is a complicated thing as well. So I totally appreciate this. And this is very much a work in progress. It's not a finished thing. So it is the outcome of having tried to solve for that across Fund 8. So we have a lot more to do, and your comments are very helpful in that we still need to also say, but let's sort of put this in an instructional place. So Scott's done like really comprehensive tutorials. I think he just posted that. And I think what we need to do now is Phil has this great opportunity for a wiki, for a Catalyst wiki that we can all use, and perhaps having it in one place where people can say, okay, I have an issue, here's where this should go. I'm going to put in the chat, and then I'll go to Ellen and Tommy. This is a link to what was the original guide for this. And it's pretty straightforward. It's very visual. Hopefully it's not too much, but I'll just pop this up here real fast, which was that the original thinking was that we would have sort of a process by which an issue came up, and then a group would form around it. And then someone in that group would want to take more of a leadership role. Then eventually it would come to a resolution. So like the Dework part from the issues right now are sort of what's on the community suggestions board. and then a group forms around it and they work on it. That's kind of like Dework. And Discord, Dework. Conversation in Discord ends up on the community suggestions board. Then the working groups board in Dework, where we're actually moving it across and it's adopted. It comes to a resolution and then we archive it. And that was really, this is like the base model for it. And this document, which I'll share with you guys, there's like a lot in there, but terminology is sort of explained and it's meant to be digestible, but also comprehensive. So I'll put this in here for you guys to take a look at, those of you who are newer to it. And I just want to reiterate that this is like the very birth of it. So we're trying to use it in this fund newly. And those of you who are brand new to it, your confusion and overwhelm will be very helpful in that we will get to really work out what needs to still be established so that it can be adopted easily without a lot of explanation, which is what it needs now. Ellen, go ahead. Thank you for obliging my statements there.
I was expecting, I don't know if Nadia could answer the question, maybe you couldn't because of the relations, because Michael and Benjamin first, they were saying something about it's something centralized somewhere. And I don't know if you, Nadia, as a person in the community engaged, if you would be able to answer this question. But this made me think first, it made me think that this governance model, which, for example, I think I comment here somewhere sometime about, some stuff I saw in Algorand. And it's like they have the foundation working together with the community as a DAO, and then the foundation can design some ideas with very experts, professionals, and etc. And then, but it's not. So then there is a transparency where you have some experts and some professionals designing, policies, ideas, proposals, and then you submit to the community, and the community will vote and discuss and etc. So if this is not clear, if people, for example, okay, the community decide this, but we are going to do this anyway, and then you push for, let's say a foundation, Cardano Foundation or IOHK, decide to push something, then you can kind of make people to start to manipulate to don't have the certain discussions and etc. So I'm just raising these questions because I think it's possible to be transparent and decentralized and to have experts at the same time, or not just experts, but also like, professionals, proposing things and explaining things. But then it's possible to have these. Another thing that I was surprised when Benjamin said is surprised because I would never thought about that. It's like, is some extra bonus going to the people who assess more proposals, or for the VCAs who assessed more proposals, so they have extra bonus. So this is also something that's not clear to me, but I just would like to comment. Benjamin said this, and is something to be clear to everyone how this, because I think this is another incentive to gamify the system. And what I proposed in the last days, for example, let's say nobody should have more than 50% of proposal or assessments filtered out, unless the VCA or PA, whatever, unless they can prove they didn't follow up the guidelines. Because these things is also about, it's also about to prevent the gamification, to prevent the greed, and also to acknowledge the people who are, you know, spending a lot of time and doing their contributions. And and some evaluations can be subjective. For example, if a proposal come to this is another thing that's not clear for me. For example, a proposal made a comment in one of my assessments, and it's because this proposal made a comment on or one or two proposals. I mean, some proposer made a comment like thanks, so thank you for your evaluation, blah blah blah. But there is one or two, they were not happy at all. But who were then? Maybe they were like you know, very well known in the community and etc. So did this influence the thing to be all filtered out? And it's not clear for me how all this information go to a spreadsheet. There is an automated system that transfer all this information to a spreadsheet. So there are some things that are not clear to me, and since I come in this conversation, I was a bit late, so I saw that you discussed some stuff already. So yeah, so I just would like to raise these points.
So go ahead. Any response to Ellen's there? I can also tell you, Ellen, just having been in the session with you on Friday and having talked through this, I think perhaps it's hard to make broad generalizations about what happened in one circumstance and say that that is the case across the board. So perhaps what might be very helpful to you is, I know that Captain Dang is taking you up on helping you look at some of the specific assessments that you had and the issues that you had with them, so that we can get to the bottom of what those concerns are. I do think it's important that we don't solve for assumptions, but that we solve for actual things that can be tied to data. That's an important thing here, because it's easy to come to conclusions, especially with so much information to process. And like has been said here, that there's so much to come to. So the community is broad, in particularly the PA community and the vPA community, very focused on looking at data and addressing things and helping to help each individual person come to conclusions about what their experience was. So I think maybe I would encourage that. I think there's no shortage of understanding that things need fixing here for the PAs. I say this a lot for each of those systems. We have a lot to do here. It's part of why these issues are raised, and we need to also make sure that we do that, because to make a small change sometimes has a major impact, and that can be a good thing, and that can be a troublesome thing. So I need to make sure that we actually are at the bottom of what the cause has been, and that we can address that specifically, and that also that there's a real need for that, or that it's not a circumstance that arose for some situational issue. So perhaps we can continue looking at the cases specific to you, so we can make sure that we really identify what happened, and does that make sense? Can we move forward that way on that specifically?
Yes, no problem. It's just I did not have the time to go back to everything again, you know, to provide Captain Dang, you know, more, and actually to give him the more information. I would also need to be available to further discussions with him, which it can be overwhelming for me in these days. But I understand this specifically, and what I've been more while I don't have the time to you know, to put the magnifying glass on this, I would like to point out some doubts about those questions that may make you, that might make you think about, other issues. And as I saw also for the situation that I saw, that I was having everything filtered out, and some other people too, I was kind of highlighting the fact, let's understand these in a broad, to see if there is some addictive behavior that made these. For example, if you filter out more people, so these funds will become what, a bonus for the people who filtered out. So yeah, I don't know. Is things that there's a lot of things that are not very clear. And the other question, we are doing comment for different things, which another thing is like, how is the model of governance in terms of decentralization working on in the practice? This is a not totally different issue. And yeah, so there's a number of things going on here. Yeah, so.
Good. Great. Ben. And then I'm noticing the stuff in the chats too, so we have to get to it too. Go ahead, Ben.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat here too, but I was just gonna say that, just to be clear, I wasn't talking about anything that had to do with gamification. I was talking about, like, there's so much money allotted for 5 assessments on a proposal. And when it turns out that a bunch are filtered out, or thrown out or whatever, and there's only 1 or 2 assessments that actually made it through, it's my understanding that those 2 received the full allotment of 5. Or it's divided up. At least that's what it looks like on the sheet that I found, with all this data on it, in terms of payment that was, I guess, retracted because of the anonymity issues or whatever. Anyway, I had found on that there was some people getting paid quite a bit, even though they only made, but it was like, oh, they were getting quite a bit because they were making, it's like, what I'm saying is not a gamification issue, because they couldn't even know that all of them would be thrown out until after the VCAs do their work. So it'd be kind of impossible for them to know that they would be one of the only people that made an assessment that actually was worth its salt to stay in the running or whatever. So just to be clear, I think there are gamification issues or whatever. We should address them, but I just want to make sure that I was mentioning the thing I said before, because I don't think I said it right. Sorry.
Thanks, Ben. Vlad.
Hi, I'll have to go soon, but I think this is a very useful debate, especially this issue. We ranked a lot of proposals up by importance on Dework, and they're just staying there. And I think that many of them have a very material impact on proposals are ranked, how the PA budget is distributed. I think that probably more than 5% of the PA reward pot, probably more, a lot more, is lost to many attempts to game the system in the PA or vPA stage. And by not addressing the top issues on Dework, doesn't mean these right now, but anyway, if we don't address them, much more will be lost. I think it's a pretty urgent thing, and I think not addressing these issues just attracts more and more people to try to abuse the system. So even if it is at a price of setting aside 5%, 3%, I don't know, 1% of the PA reward pot, I think reducing any attempt to game the system by resolving the Dework issues will, in fact, not reduce the rewards to PAs and VPAs who are dedicated to pushing Catalyst forward, because a fairer system means everybody wins. So I think it's pretty urgent to solve issues that are identified, because if they're not, I think it costs much more than 5%. It will go up and up. Thanks.
Rocky and then Ninh.
I'll try to be really quick. I just think actually, I don't think gamification is a bad thing. Is that me alone? I think maybe cheating the system is bad for sure, right? Gamification for me just means sort of making something competitive for oneself. So if however it is, it works for you as a device mentally, go for it. And you can call it, I call it gamification for me, but then there's cheating, which is like just, you know, dishonest habits or behaviors. That's all I had to say on that. And then a thought I had on, this is just, I'm trying to give something tangible that you can take for the actual questions you had, Nadia, regarding the ideas. I wonder, and forgive my ignorance, but I'm still new to even looking at it. So visually, I'm kind of still new at fresh looking at the Dework platform. Like Kenrick, I think his name Kenrick said earlier, it does remind me of a few things, other platforms. I wonder, because it's overwhelming, all of this is, but if one were to make them their way to Dework and say, no, I'm like myself, like I thought I was ready to help, but then I realized, okay, I can't even figure out what I need to do or how to do it. I wonder if there's a way of simplifying the visual format to say, are you here to do this? Here is where you go, you know, and like, here's what we need you to do or what you can do. Like very simple, you know, and then it's like, okay, I can do that, you know, versus, I don't know, figuring out whether I'm on the right page or not, you know, am I supposed to click this? You know, like, I don't know. Just some raw thoughts I had. I apologize if they're not terribly constructive, but I want to give a little bit more feedback that you could actually use for the questions you had.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that. So I'll just say that these are like our collective community problems. This is not like a single person deciding, and this is like us working together to try to figure this out. So and it's also not the intention that the intention for me in bringing this up and showing it visually is so we can understand what has been prioritized and think about the problems that we, like Vlad was saying, need attention. I think Ninh put in the chat there, like one of the things that is urgent for what's coming up and also important is that we need the materials updated for this fund. The proposal, there's additional questions in the proposal guide that they need to address in their submission of their proposals that affect the assessment. And so Mercy and I tried to do a good amount of work of looking through the lens of both proposers and assessors and trying to make sure that there's continuity. So because we looked at the proposer side from the assessor side, we also need to look at the assessor side from the proposer side and make sure there's continuity there of language and expectation so that everyone can work together effectively. So I'm giving that example to say there are things that we need to be urgent on addressing. And then there's also, we need to continue simplifying and making more clear the process by which we work together, which are these tools. So these tools right now are like, someone came over and was like, why are you using that screwdriver? I have this power tool. Do you want to use it? And you're like, yeah, do you have some guides for it? And they're like, no, have fun. Like that's kind of where we are. So we need the easy how to press this button, do this thing, that still. So it's totally expected that people have that feeling of overwhelm. It's because we're in between. We have things we need to do right now. The sensing and the issues that happen. We're learning tools at the same time. And also we have to do this stuff. So I would appreciate if you are interested in it, I would appreciate just the fresh eyes to say, okay, when I look at this, I need to know these things, because what we probably need next, simultaneous to solving these prioritized issues, is the wiki or the straightforward one-sheeter that says, here's how you go about this, point A to point Z, or point A to point C, or yeah, and so it's really, really simple, because the tools themselves do need, just like Zoom and everything else we use in here, there's a certain amount of coming up to speed with the tools themselves and the culture of how Catalyst works together that is, to be honest, different in every circle somewhat, but there's some standards to it. And we want to help people come up to speed with those standards quickly so that when we have to solve things together, we are all comfortable with what we're using to do that. So I'm just giving you that for some context, and I appreciate the question, and it's totally valid what you're saying and much needed.
Cool. Thank you, Nadia. And one last thing, one real quick idea is, I just thought, like, while there are people that are experienced out there, I wonder if anybody would care to just sort of maybe even record themselves using these tools and then posting it somewhere, like, here's how you do this if you have to do X or Y. Very simple.
That does exist. So that does exist now. It just needs to come in one place. And Scott, maybe you can point people to that as a beginning. But I think even though it lives and exists and is well done, probably just one link to a page where all that is, and it's like, that's maybe our closing step to really see it shine. So the excellent points and well taken and appreciated. Go ahead, Ninh.
Hey guys, sorry I joined in late. I have to hop also in a couple minutes, but I want to just bring up a couple things, right? I don't know if this was already brought up, but the dApps challenge is huge challenge. It's like 60 or 75% of the total funding. Don't know exactly right now. But because of that, most of the proposals will go in there, right? And then because I'm one of the proposals in there, I won't be able to CA other proposals. In the same challenge. Question that I did have, that's the issue, because now we have to onboard just pure CAs who are not proposals, who can assess dApps. Question I had is, I heard about Dework earlier, right? Something about CA doing some work on Dework. Why did we choose the CAs to be anonymous? And is Dework gonna break that anonymity, for example, right? And is it okay? Maybe it is.
Those things should be mutually exclusive to each other, because Dework is in place here for just people to work together on stuff in the same way that you would talk in any channel. So it's not related to actually doing the assessments. But if you want an answer about the anonymity decision, I can kick that to Danny. I'll throw you a hot potato, Danny, if you want. It's not a hot potato, but do you want to speak to the decision on anonymity of PAs?
It follows the logic of what's commonly coming out of the peer review process in a traditional sense of the environment. However, we do have some oddities which are specific to our environment that we also need to overcome. And one of them is namely identity. And I think a lot of solutions coming down the road with the decentralized identity solutions will help us address that. Because today that account creation and everything is a little bit convoluted, and it's not as bulletproof as it could be and where it should be. So whereas in the real world, when you are in the peer review of the scientific papers, you are probably part of a chapter somewhere, and people know that you are actually a capacity behind a certain domain expertise and whatnot. But it allows you to actually provide feedback, which is not ideally not biased, just or like it protects you from the fallback that you're actually giving somebody brutally honest feedback on something if you're like in that field of sorts. So it follows the peer review scientific research methods in the real world as such. But in Catalyst environment, I think where this needs to evolve over time is through that decentralized ID, so that we can start bolting down like, yes, this is a one account and it's not accompanied by another 5 or 10. We have some very basic tools of discovering it, but as we mature the state over the coming months and years, I have very high hopes that the IDs will be playing a very pivotal role in making sure that anonymity becomes really true what it needs to be in that case.
My second question was, how does SSI can play? So you already answer that. I talked to Kenrick actually the other day. He joins because he's our advisor, right, from Fund8. And because we are building the bounties on SSI, whatever, you can just create a bounty. Hey, generate your SSI wallet or DID to become a CA, and just like you would have in idea scale, like a box to input your Cardano wallet address, you can input your DID that you guys can read and verify and all that good stuff. I can offer that as a solution. I know Allison and ProofSpace guys got funded for that in Fund8 as well. But this could be an alternative if it's needed. We can deliver, and we're gonna launch this sometimes in July. So
Yeah, I think
can come on
definitely
and do a
there's
demo.
yeah, there's a lot of goodness coming out of the CA challenge, which had a lot of projects, I think, building underneath. And I think Allison is working with Prism. Root's team is doing a lot of groundwork as well. So I think we are converging towards like a situation where we can truly be living up to the potential of anonymity, but without that fear of like, are we being played on the other side of the equation? You know, we're able to identify some of these, but I think we are under no illusion that certain things are coming out of under the radar, which are not possible to be picked upon, and it takes a lot of great effort and work to uncover these things. But those decentralized DIDs are definitely something I have high hopes for, and it should be the part of the design and solution down the line.
Have a great day, guys.
Go ahead. So recognizing that we are like 2 hours, and you guys are all rock stars for being in this conversation this long, and much appreciated. I want to just take a little tiny intermission here to say what I think would be helpful if you're not in the server yet. I'm going to put the link. And if you want to come in here and as a beginning, maybe this is a place where if you can come in and just like post, hey, I'd like to be involved in some way. The intention is not that you come in with full knowledge of how to use these tools. It's that you come in with a desire to be involved and participate and connect with people. And that's how I ended up doing this. That's how pretty much everyone in here has ended up in here, because we come in with the desire to get involved in some way. So if you want to pop in and do that, I certainly we'll keep our eye out for that. And then we can maybe add people to the initiatives that they're most interested in. And that's a really nice way, especially if you're new, to meet people and get involved in some way that's meaningful. And also sometimes the ideas for proposals or collaborations come as a result of that. So I want to just request that there's an introductions and an ask a question section in there. So if you want to just post in either of those, and you can tag me if you want. It's just Nadia Hopkins in there, and then I will try to help us get in directions that are meaningful to you and also to the ecosystem, so that this conversation continues itself forward and helps people to get involved in ways that make sense. So I also probably what we'll do is try to get a group together to look at the PA assessment. So that's coming up here real fast, because we need to have it done in probably the next 10 days, maybe to 2 weeks. And that's going to take some thoughtful consideration. So if you have space to do that and it's important to you, then please let me know. You can just tag me as well. I'll give you my DM here, or my DM me. Reaching the time where I start to sound dumb. So that's there. You can DM me, or you can just come into the server and ask around. There's a lot of people there who'll help you get to the right place. Okay, so then we can just keep talking here. We'll let it sort of naturally wind down, but ideally we can get together on some of these prioritized things, and we'll continue the discussion there so that everyone doesn't have to hang on if you got other things to do. Go ahead, Ben.
I was just off of Ninh. Was it Ninh that was talking earlier? Yeah. I was just thinking about how actually during one fund, I actually decided not to do a proposal because I realized like if I just did the assessments there, because I knew that category so well, I was like, oh, I can totally make more than I would on the proposal, and that will fund my project, which it totally did, no problem. And then it was all good. But it's like a weird kind of question we have to ask ourselves as experts in a certain field, because some people like myself, I'm a writer, I come into a tech heavy space, and it's like, there's only so many assessments I can do, right? I have some expertise in other areas. It's not just quite only writing, but he just had such a great point. It's like, if he's going to be a developer, now he's like, he can't assess on anything there. And it's like a conflict of interest, which it totally makes sense. But like, it is a problem when a lot of developers go into that space and they're proposing, and then it's like, oh, now we've lost our pool of people that really know what to, how to assess these, so it is an interesting thing. And it brings me to a different point, which is like, I've been thinking for a while as I've done assessments, I've thought, boy, this really could be structured in a more community-oriented way, where it's like, you are only allowed to, this is just an idea, it's like, what if we were only allowed to assess proposals that we've been commenting on during the process of uploading proposals, having comments being said. If it's like, if I'm making comments on these, of course that would need to be incentivized, and that's a whole different thing, and it's a big ball. It's like a whole new way of incentivizing things, but it would allow for it not to worry about being anonymous, perhaps, because this person making this assessment is somebody who's an expert in the field or has some expertise that's worth mentioning, and has also been with you since you uploaded your proposal, and has been making comments so you can adjust things before the final day there, and is kind of maybe looked at as maybe a mentor or something like this, and a friend, as opposed to an anonymous person making crazy suggestions that might make somebody so angry that they need to be anonymous or something. It's just like a weird psychology that we're supposing. It's like we have to anonymize these people because then somebody could be maliciously attacking them for making such assessments. It's like, well, maybe we need to be creating friendships or some sort of, I don't know if it's really okay to use such a normal word. It's not so, friendships is a word that's not so corporate, and we're not being so professional anymore because I'm using this word or something. But it's a decentralized space, and we're trying to create kind of a new world here. So maybe it's okay to use it. I don't know. But yeah, that's just a topic that I was thinking about. That I don't know if anybody's talking about that anywhere in Catalyst United, or if there's like a particular server to talk about that in, or whatever. But I just thought I'd throw it out there to see if anybody could enlighten me on that.
Benjamin, I'm going to call you a friend. How about that?
Thanks, Rookie. Appreciate that.
It's also a very welcome conversation, because for me, like my experience, and I know anyone who came in, like I came in Fund 6, but I got probably involved in Fund 7. It was a very tumultuous time, and it was not like a nice time necessarily. For certain part, for this part, because there were a lot of challenges and it was very strenuous. So it wasn't like this kind of idyllic experience that some people had who came in at different times. It was very like, we had a lot of work to do. So the language around that becomes a lot more like worker bee kind of language, and a lot less relational and a lot less collaborative. And I think that's a really important point that you're making. And I know Jeremy said to me once a while back that, some of it too is volume. Like when you don't have a lot of participants, you suffer more. I'm not saying this exactly as he said it, but when you don't have the scale that we'll have, the things that go wrong are very, very impactful. And then eventually that you grow and you grow and you grow, and it sort of fills itself out. So the stuff that we're dealing with here in the beginning is all very, it can be intense. And so that keeping that mindset of expecting that people are here for the reasons that we're here, that's brought us here to make something really cool and creative and interesting, and to do a good job with what we're doing, and that mistakes can be made, and that we're not going to necessarily find the same stuff that we found other places, and that everything's in motion. All those things are really fundamental to what we're doing here, and should be a big part of the conversation. So we don't overemphasize preventing things, but this is really the thing that made me think about Jeremy's comments to me, that we don't overemphasize preventing, that we acknowledge that that's going to happen, but that we're really considering all the opportunity that's there, and the great majority of the good work that's being done gets a lot of attention as well. So yeah, so I really appreciate you saying that, and I think that will be a welcome addition to all these conversations, because the problems are not black and white. Yeah, it's my personal feeling. So what I'll commit to is I'm going to come out of this meeting. I'll put the recording up. And I'll put it on, I'll give it to Swarm, and also put it on it'll be in the video drops in the server there. And maybe we'll start to have a conversation around, maybe in the general space, we'll start to have a conversation around, okay, we need to really get at this a little bit more. Perhaps we can really start with making the whole process and the tools a lot more accessible. So we have some like easy 1, 2, 3, and we can look at the guide, because it's my sort of intuitive sense that the guide is going to flush out a lot of these issues that need to be talked about. Is there other? I'm missing a lot of what's going on in the chat, but please speak up if you put something there that I'm not acknowledging that you want to have heard. Solution of Dework issues in the motion. Yeah, good. And what will really help that is like a couple people willing to go, like the process right now is some things are community driven efforts and some end up being proposals that are longer term things, but the things that we can solve now, if they're straightforward, we try to solve now.
Is there a place that we could go right now to, like, is there a Dework, I don't know, job open? I forget what the to-dos are called or whatever. Is there a to-do for updating the CA guidebook or the handbook? I mean,
I think that we do have that. Can you put that in there, Scott?
I mean, I got the link several times from you guys to the Catalyst United, but now I'm like, what channel do I go in for this stuff or whatever? Well, I guess I did see the Dework too. I got that link.
Dework link is where it would be at. I'll post the link again for the community.
Okay, yeah, I just
suggestions, and you can see it there.
I don't think anyone's going to be in a neck and neck race with you on that one, Jeremy. Starting a point of distribution of vPA workload, see if anyone beats me to it. That's awesome. Okay, thanks, Danny. Okay, great. So we'll start on that, and we need to have a good influence of proposers, maybe some from the funded proposers group. We need to have a full perspective on this so that we really see it from all sides. That's going to help us all understand. I think that's a big, when you're involved in the creation of it, then you can really make sure that what's in there is representative. So that'll be a good change for this fund as well. So yeah, Scott, can you put where's the Discord? Do we have the Discord for the CA guide? It might be archived, actually. Let's try to do that before we get off here. That would be fantastic. You're so much faster than me.
Is there a place on the Dework thing where the to-do for that is?
That's a great point.
There's a lot of different rooms here. There's like project proposal assessor work group. Is it in the working groups or is it in?
Nothing's really in the working groups yet.
Okay.
I can find the guy.
Oh, combined board. It'll be in the combined board, right? I'm sorry. I'm also just kind of getting used to Dework.
Okay, let me see. Did you find it, Scott, or am I racing the guru here?
Thanks, guys.
CA guide needs updating here.
I don't have the specific thread, but I put the channel link in
now
there.
let me just show this. Actually, we should be able to. If I just launch the thread for that. So let me just show everyone real fast how I just did that. So here's the link. The CA guide needs updating for Fund 9. So this is under the suggestion. So all I did there was I searched guide and then I found this one here. No one gets excited about updating the guide, so it doesn't have as many votes. But at the bottom here, any of these you find that you want to be involved in, if you go to the bottom, you can click discuss here. This takes you to the Discord for it. And it's going to launch it in my app, which probably won't show on my screen, but that should take us to the app over here. Try to find it here. Are you looking at my Discord screen now? No, I think you're still looking at the other one. So,
Nadia, you searched for a guide. That's what you did. I was kind of
yeah.
between the chat.
So here we go.
Step-by-step visual guide for community suggestions is all that comes up.
Okay, you're on the community suggestions board here.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So this is good, and this is exactly why we need this.
There it is.
Yeah, there you go, guide. So I scroll down. If you go to that link, you scroll down here. It's and again, this will not be the intention for the future that someone has to go through it like this, but right now that's where we're at. So I'll launch to the web here.
Okay, so I don't see a link from you, but I'll just ask this real quick. Which project are you in right now, or are you not? Because I can't see anything where you came from or where you are or whatever. Oh, which one are you under?
I'm in the community suggestions board here, which is what we looked at originally. Can you see my screen?
Yes, but where is community suggestions? I'm like clicking on any of these things over on the side, and I go ahead.
Shared ideas board.
Shared ideas.
board.
Okay, cool.
And then at
Got
the,
it.
and then at the top, you'll see community suggestions.
Suggestions.
I'm
yeah.
there. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. I was
And then
lost,
that's
but
where
now I'm
I,
found.
yeah. And then if you just scroll down here, it's going to be under keep the CA guide needs updating for Fund 9. Even the post itself needs some updating. So if you click on this here, there's a bunch of different comments. So as a group, we would kind of look at these comments. These are all the things that were related to the guide that were raised. So clarity on evaluating the idea versus the proposal, details on similarity and auto filtering. So these are just things that were raised during that time that we logged. And then at the
Nadia,
bottom,
we can add things there too as well.
yeah, you totally can.
Yeah.
Totally can. And then the goal is that, so this is just a representation of the things that the community noticed or talked about during this time so that we would have it. We just logged them through the Fund 8 assessing period. So when you come here, it's not launching for me right now, and I don't know why that is, but we can get that together here. See how it has this discuss here? We'll have to figure out why that is, Scott. It might be because it's been up here for a little bit. But it should launch to the Discord app, and then maybe we can find a thread for this, Scott, and put it in there somehow. Because it should launch the, let me see if I can accept it. Yeah, so what that will look like then is I'll bring you over here just so you can get a familiarity with it. What it will look like is
Quick plug for anybody
oh,
that's
yeah, I got it.
having my same issue is that there is a whole Dework tutorial channel in the Catalyst United. So that's cool. I'm gonna have to go through that.
So when you come into the server here, see how down here this is Catalyst suggestions. These are suggestions that people have made. And now because I've launched it, it's given me this thread again. So it'll launch a thread for you. And I'm going to give you guys this exact thread so we can talk about it and as a group in there. Okay, but you have to join the server first. Oh, you posted already. You're always faster than me. All right. Yeah.
Oh, actually, there I am.
Okay, so then you'll get in here. Yes, there you go. So now you guys are set. And
I'm official. No, kidding.
That's really what it should be. So ultimately, the point is that we would get together, you'd get people here, you'd share the thread with someone so they could join the conversation. Not that they'd have to go through that process that we just went through. So I understand that that was a complex process. So people would join here, they get to talk about it, and then there'd be someone who maybe is the champion or the leader of the group, and that person can update the Dework board, but a lot of the conversation can happen here. Danny, we can post the draft in here, and then we can invite people into this space too who want to participate in, like Ellen, for example, and people who want to participate in it. And then ultimately you would have that same functionality for other things that need to be addressed as well. So it will be the initial conversation. It'll be an official thing on the workgroup board. Then we'll add it to the workgroup board and it will be archived so that people who come to this in Fund 10 to update the Fund 9 guide will say, oh, that's what they did and that's why they did that, versus question marks. So thank you for, there we go. All right, very good, guys. Thank you for bearing with us on that one. All right, and then simultaneously, we'll get the updates for the tools together so that you can know how to use them. And Jeremy, we can do the same thing for you with the vPA stuff, with the work distribution. All right.
I have so many new bookmarks.
For a while in the beginning, when I first was in Catalyst, I had like collections of tabs that were open, and then my computer was so slow I couldn't do anything, and I had to really make a whole big bookmark thing. It's pretty amazing how many bookmarks you get in Catalyst. So a mountainous pile of them, a buffet of bookmarks.
Definitely.
All right. Anything I missed in the chat? Yeah, I like that idea, Jeremy. Anything else we want to talk about here? I think if we can start on the guide, that's probably the most important thing, urgency wise, and then we have some space for the other processes.
I mean, if we're tackling a bunch of things, you mentioned black and white, so let's just tackle race right now. Joke. That's humor right there, guys.
Okay.
Okay. Trying to levitate on the way out.
You can't laugh too soon at that one. That's not the right thing.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Really good, guys. Any other comments? We're doing pretty good. Okay, good. So off we go. Thanks everyone for your time tremendously. There's a lot to do here, so appreciate everyone's input. Thanks for your comments, and thanks in advance for what we're about to get done here. So appreciate it very much, and we'll see you guys soon.